He was supposed to yell at me, not text me. But there it was, glowing on my screen after midnight. Are you busy? I miss you. I stared at it like it was some kind of trap, a hidden landmine wrapped in tenderness. This was the same man who had barked at me earlier that day to run faster, to push harder, to stop being so damn weak. The same man who stood in the center of the gym like some immovable monument to strength and discipline. Coach Hayes. My coach. The one guy I was supposed to keep at a distance, the one guy I knew better than to want. But God, I wanted him. The story really should have started weeks ago. Back when I stumbled into that gym for the first time, too green and too eager, my entire life dangling by a thread. I didn't walk in looking for love. I barely had the energy to look for hope. My chest was still tight from the fallout of a breakup that had left me half hollow, and I thought joining a training program would be my way of clawing back some sense of control. Instead, it threw me into the orbit of a man who seemed built out of fire and iron, someone who could cut through my excuses with a single glance and somehow make me both hate and crave his attention. From day one, Coach Hayes didn't go easy on me. He singled me out, tore down my sloppy form, made me repeat drills until my legs turned into jelly. But beneath the grit and the grind, there was something else, something I caught when his eyes lingered a second too long, or when his hand brushed against mine while adjusting my stance. And that's the part that scared me most, because he wasn't supposed to care. I wasn't supposed to care. Yet here I was, staring at that message like it was both salvation and damnation rolled into one. My thumbs hovered above the screen, the echo of his voice still in my head, the commanding tone that had made me sweat and swear under fluorescent lights hours earlier. Now that same voice was whispering through text, softer, rawer. A confession wrapped in 6 words. Are you busy? I miss you. Maybe I should tell you what it feels like to stand in front of him, drenched in sweat, my chest heaving, and see the ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. It feels like being tested in every way, not just my body, but my resolve, my ability to resist what I shouldn't want. Because the truth is, there was no resisting him. Not when he leaned close enough for me to feel the heat radiating from his skin. Not when his hand steadied me during a sparring drill. His grip strong yet careful, as if I mattered more than just another trainee. And the worst part? Every time he got under my skin, I wanted more. So maybe that's why I didn't delete the text. Maybe that's why, despite every warning screaming in my head, I typed back. I'm awake. I can't sleep. The dots appeared instantly, like he'd been waiting. And maybe he had. That night I didn't sleep. And when dawn cracked over the city, painting the streets in bruised shades of purple and gold, I found myself already thinking about him, about what would happen the moment I walked back into that gym. The gym was a different world in the morning. Cold steel, polished floors, the faint scent of chalk and sweat still clinging to the air. I got there early, trying to convince myself it was discipline and not desperation that brought me in before anyone else. But he was already there. Coach Hayes stood by the weights, his hoodie pulled tight, his jaw shadowed with the kind of stubble that made him look less like a soldier and more like a man who hadn't slept either. Our eyes met, and for a moment, neither of us said a word. Warm up, he finally muttered, his voice gruff but not harsh. I obeyed, but every movement felt electric under his gaze. Every stretch, every push-up, every drop of sweat that slid down my template all belonged to the silence between us. And then, when I was bent over catching my breath, his footsteps approached. You texted back, he said low, almost like an accusation. Yeah, I replied, my throat dry. You shouldn't have. Then why did you text first? The words slipped out before I could catch them, sharp and defiant, and for a second, I thought I'd gone too far. But instead of snapping, instead of barking at me like he always did, he just looked at me. I looked at me. His jaw tightened, his chest rose and fell, and something unspoken passed between us, heavy and undeniable. I shouldn't want this, he admitted, his voice a ragged whisper. But I do. And just like that, the ground beneath me shifted. That was the beginning. Not of love, not yet. Love is too soft a word for what grew between us at first. It was fire, dangerous and hungry, threatening to consume us both. He was older, he was my coach, and every boundary screamed that this was wrong. But every look, every accidental touch, every word he didn't say screamed louder that it was inevitable. And maybe that's what makes this story worth telling. Because it wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. It wasn't the kind of romance that fits neatly into a box. It was messy and painful, and at times it broke me. But it also built me. It taught me that sometimes, the people who push us the hardest are the ones who see us the clearest. That sometimes, the man yelling at you to get up is the same man who stays awake at night because he can't stop thinking about you. And maybe, just maybe, it taught me that even the most ruthless coach can miss someone enough to text it at midnight. He said it like a confession dragged out of him against his will. I shouldn't want this, but I do. The air between us turned into glass, fragile and sharp. If either of us breathed too hard, it might crack. I wanted to laugh, to scream, to say something clever that would make this feel less dangerous. But all I could do was stare at him, this man who had reduced me to sweat and bruises, who had broken down every wall I'd put up just to test if I could stand on my own. Now he was the one unraveling, and that was terrifying. Then what happens now? I asked, my voice quieter than I meant. He shook his head. Nothing. His hand twitched, almost reaching for me before he shoved it into his hoodie pocket. This doesn't happen. You keep training. I keep pushing you. And we forget the rest. I should have agreed. Should have let him retreat behind the wall of authority where he belonged. Instead, I stepped closer. Close enough to see the war in his eyes. The way his lips pressed into a thin line, torn between control and want. I don't think I can forget, I whispered. And just like that, his mask slipped. He inhaled sharply, his jaw clenching, and for a second just a secondi thought he would close the distance between us. Thought he would give in to whatever this was. But then he turned abruptly, his voice rough. Hit the bag. 10 rounds. Don't stop until I say. It was punishment. For him. For me. For the weakness we'd just admitted out loud. And I took it, fists slamming into leather until my knuckles burned, until my arms screamed, until I had nothing left but the rhythm of violence to drown out the chaos in my chest. That week was hell. He was colder than ever. He barked at me in front of everyone, tore apart my mistakes with surgical precision, and made me run drills until I thought my lungs would collapse. To anyone else, it probably looked like tough love, just another coach pushing his trainee. But I knew better. I saw the way he avoided being alone with me, the way his eyes lingered when he thought I wasn't looking, the way his hands tightened into fists when I brushed past him. Every ounce of discipline he threw at me was a shield, a desperate attempt to cage what he'd let slip in the quiet of that morning. And maybe I should have hated him for it. But I didn't, couldn't. Because underneath the harsh words and relentless training, there was something else, something that kept me coming back, even when my body begged to quit. One night, after everyone else had left, I stayed behind, my body sore but my chest restless. I hit the bag alone, the thud of my fists echoing in the empty gym. And then I heard it, footsteps behind me. You're supposed to be home, he said. His voice wasn't sharp this time, just tired. So are you. I didn't turn. The silence stretched, thick and dangerous, until finally he came closer. I felt his presence before I saw him, the weight of it pressing against my back. You're pushing too hard, he muttered. I let out a bitter laugh. Says the guy who makes me do 10 rounds until I can't feel my arms. That's different. How? I spun then, facing him. How is it different, coach? Because you're the one in control? Because you get to decide when to break me and when to stop. His eyes darkened. You think I don't break too? That shut me up. He stepped closer. So close I could smell the faint trace of soap on his skin mixed with the metallic tang of sweat. His voice dropped, almost a growl. Every time you look at me like that, I break. Every time you fight me. Every time you get back up, even when I've pushed you past your limit, I break. My chest tightened. Then why keep doing this? Because I don't know how to stop. And just like that, the dam shattered. The first time he touched Miral, I touched Muisant, some cinematic moment. There were no violins, no perfect timing. It was raw, clumsy, desperate. His hand was on my jaw before I realized what was happening, pulling me closer. I barely had time to gasp before his mouth was on mine, hard and unyielding, like he was punishing himself even as he gave in. I should have pulled away. I should have reminded him he was my coach, that this was reckless, dangerous, wrong. But all I could think was how right it felt, how the fire I'd been swallowing for weeks finally had somewhere to burn. When he broke the kiss, his forehead pressed against mine, his breath ragged, his hands trembling like he hated himself for wanting me this much. "This can't happen again," he whispered. But we both knew it would. And it did. In stolen moments when no one else was around. In the way his hand would linger on my back just a second too long. In the late nights when we stayed after training, pretending it was about discipline when really it was about being near each other. It wasn't love yet. Love was too clean, too simple a word. This was something darker, something that threatened to consume us both. But buried inside that danger was a tenderness neither of us could ignore. Like the night I collapsed on the mat after a brutal sparring session, my chest heaving, my body refusing to move. He crouched beside me, his hand hovering over mine before finally resting there, warm and steady. "You're stronger than you think," he murmured. And maybe he wasn't just talking about the fight. Of course, secrets don't stay secrets forever. The first crack came during a regional meet, when I caught him watching me longer than he should have. His gaze wasn't the gaze of a coach checking form. It was too personal, too protective. And one of the other trainers noticed. Afterward, in the locker room, he cornered me, his jaw tight. "We have to be careful." "Careful?" I scoffed. "Hayes, we're already too far gone for careful. Don't say my name like that." His voice broke on the words, softer than I'd ever heard it. "Like what?" "Like you mean it." I stepped closer, reckless and raw. "But I do." And then he kissed me again, desperate, like a man fighting against the tide and losing. That was how it began to unravel, not because we didn't care, but because we cared too much. Every glance became a risk. Every touch a secret stitched too loosely. The line between coach and trainee blurred until it wasn't a line at all, just a memory of something we were supposed to respect. And all the while, the world outside kept pressing in. Teammates, competitions, rules. The unspoken truth that if anyone found out, it could cost him his career and me the one chance I had at proving myself. But here's the thing about fire. Once it's lit, it doesn't care about consequences. It just burns. And we were burning. Secrets don't just stay secrets, they rot in the dark until they force their way into the light. And ours was no exception. It started small. The way his eyes tracked me in practice, the way my body seemed to respond to his presence like it had its own compass. People noticed. Maybe not everyone, not at first, but whispers began. Questions. Little comments that slid under the skin. One night, after everyone had cleared out, Hayes stayed behind. He leaned against the wall of the gym, arms crossed, looking more like a man bracing for a storm than a coach finishing a session. "We can't keep this up," he said flatly. I froze mid-step. "Then why are you still here?" His jaw tightened. "Because I'm weak when it comes to you. But weakness gets people hurt." The word stung worse than any drill he'd ever put me through. I hated the way he said it, like what we had was nothing more than a liability, like I was some burden he carried instead of the one person who understood him in all his contradictions. "You're not weak," I shot back. "You're just scared." That got to him. I saw it in the flicker of his expression. The way his eyes narrowed but didn't quite meet mine. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I stepped closer, reckless. "Every time you push me harder than the others. Every time you stay late just to correct my form. Every time you text me at night saying you miss me, think I don't know what that means? You're scared. Scared that this, whatever this is real." He looked at me like I'd ripped the ground out from under him. And for once, he didn't have a comeback. Instead, he closed the distance. His hand shot out, gripping the back of my neck, and his forehead pressed against mine. His breath was ragged, his voice broken when he whispered, "I can't lose everything I've worked for because of you." My chest ached. "Then maybe stop treating me like I'm the problem." And before either of us could pull back, the door creaked open. One of the assistant trainers poked his head in, eyes darting between us. For a second, the world stopped. Hayes's hand was still on me. Too close. Too telling. The trainer's brows furrowed, suspicion heavy in the silence. "Everything okay in here?" Hayes's grip vanished like it burned him. He stepped back, his voice instantly sharp. "Yeah, trainee needs extra drills. That's all." The man gave a slow nod, lingering a moment too long before leaving. But the damage was done. After that night, things changed. Hayes became stricter, harsher than ever, like if he could bury what we had under enough discipline, it would disappear. He hardly looked at me outside of drills, And when he did, his gaze was cold steel. But then, at night, my phone would light up. Are you awake? I can't stop thinking about you. I hate myself for this. I need you. The contradiction was tearing me apart. During the day, he broke me down in front of everyone. At night, he broke himself down in front of me. And I didn't know how much longer I could take it. The breaking point came during the regional finals. It was the biggest event of my season, the moment I was supposed to prove myself. The gym was packed, the air electric, the crowd roaring with every punch, every move. Hayes was in my corner, his voice booming louder than anyone else's, barking orders, demanding more. But his eyes betrayed him. Every time I stumbled, I saw fear flash through them. Not the fear of me losing, but the fear of me breaking. Of him not being able to protect me. And then it happened. A hit I didn't see coming. My guard dropped for a fraction of a second, and pain exploded across my jaw. The mat came up fast, the world spinning, the crowd gasping as I hit the floor. The referee's count echoed dimly in my ears, but over it, I heard him. Get up. Hayes's voice cracked like thunder. Get the hell up. You hear me? I forced myself onto shaky legs, vision swimming. Somehow, someway I pushed through. I fought like a man possessed not just for myself, but for him. For the way his voice carried me, for the way his belief in me cut through the haze. When the final bell rang, I'd done it. I'd won. Barely, bruised and battered, but I'd won. The crowd roared, my teammates swarmed me, but all I saw was him. And for the first time, Hayes wasn't hiding. His face was raw, unguarded, pride and terror and something deeper burning through. When the others cleared, when the noise dimmed, he pulled me aside, his hands gripping my shoulders like he couldn't let go. His voice was low, rough. You can't keep doing this to me, he said. Doing what? I asked, breathless. Making me care this much. My heart clenched. Then stop fighting it. For once, he didn't argue. He just pulled me into him, right there in the chaos, consequences be damned. His lips found mine in a kiss that was less about passion and more about surrender, about two men too tired of pretending, too tired of carrying the weight alone. And in that moment, I didn't care who saw. But the world cares even when you don't. News travels fast. Too fast. By the next week, whispers had turned to rumors, rumors to confrontations. People asked questions. Eyes lingered too long. Respect shifted into suspicion. The head of the training program called Hayes into his office. I wasn't invited, but I saw the way he came out, jaw tight, shoulders heavy, like a man carrying a sentence. That night he showed up at my door. We can't keep this up, he said again. But this time his voice cracked, softer, pleading. I shook my head. I don't want to stop. You don't get it. His hands raked through his hair. They're watching us. One slip and it's over for me. My career, my future. Everything I've built. And what about me? My voice broke. What about what I feel? What we feel? Do I just erase it because it's inconvenient for your career? His eyes glistened, pain carved into every line of his face. If I lose this, what do I have left to give you? And for the first time, I saw him not as my coach, not as the ruthless man who broke me down in the gym, but as a man terrified of being left with nothing. So I did the only thing I could. I held him, and in that silence, in the shaking of his body against mine, I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the storm before the calm. Because love, the kind that survives the fire, doesn't burn out. It endures, even when the world tries to snuff it out. The storm didn't pass overnight. For weeks after the confrontation in the office, Hayes walked like a man living under a sentence. He trained me with the same intensity, but his eyes were hollow, his voice clipped, as though he'd built a wall not only between us, but between himself and the world. I hated it. I hated the distance, the silence, the way our stolen moments shrank into nothing but fragmented texts and sidelong glances. I hated that the man who once made me feel invincible now looked like he was waiting to be crushed. And most of all, I hated the choice that hung between us, love or survival, came to a head one Friday evening. I found him alone in the gym, the lights dim, his hoodie pulled low over his face as he pounded the heavy bag like he was exorcising demons. Hayes, I said quietly. He froze, gloves still pressed to the bag. Slowly, he turned, And in the shadows, I saw it: fear, the exhaustion, the desperation he'd been hiding from everyone else. "I can't do this anymore," he rasped. The words nearly knocked the air out of me. "What do you mean?" "I mean us. This, whatever we're pretending it is tearing me apart. Every day I'm looking over my shoulder, waiting for the hammer to drop. Every night I lie awake thinking I'll lose it all. My job, my reputation. You won't lose me," I said firmly. His laugh was bitter, broken. "You don't know that. One day, you'll realize you deserve better than a man who hides you in the dark." Something in me snapped then. I walked forward, grabbed his wrist, forced him to look at me. "Stop acting like you're protecting me by pushing me away. You're not. You're just breaking us both." His chest heaved, his lips trembling with words he couldn't speak. And in that silence I made a choice. "If you walk away now," I said, my voice shaking, "then it's not because of the rules or the risks. It's because you don't want this enough. And if that's the truth, tell me to my face." His jaw clenched, tears glinting in his eyes. And then, finally, he whispered, "I want this more than anything." That was enough. I kissed him hard, fierce, reckless. And this time he didn't pull away. He kissed me back with all the hunger he'd buried, all the fear he tried to swallow, until we were both breathless, our foreheads pressed together, the world falling away. "I'm tired of hiding," I murmured. "Then we won't," he said, voice raw but steady. "Not anymore." The fallout was messy. Rumors became truths. Truths became confrontations. He was suspended from coaching pending an ethics review. People whispered, judged, speculated. Some teammates avoided me, others stood by me, but the weight of it all pressed down until I thought I'd collapse. And through it all, Hayes stood firm. He showed up, walked beside me, held my hand in public for the first time, even when eyes burned holes through us. Faced down the whispers with a jaw set like stone. For once, he wasn't hiding. And that changed everything. Because when people saw the truth that this wasn't scandal or lust or some power game, but love, they stopped seeing us as a problem and started seeing us as people. Not everyone, not right away, but enough. The board cleared him eventually, though he lost his old position. Too much disruption, they said, but he didn't care. He found a new gym, smaller, humbler, and when he asked if I'd train there with him, I said yes without hesitation. Because it wasn't about the place. It was about us. Months later, on a quiet morning in the park, we sat together on a bench watching the sunrise. For the first time in what felt like forever, there were no whispers, no battles, no secrets clawing at us. Just warmth, just peace. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. "You changed everything, you know?" he murmured. I leaned against him, smiling faintly. "So did you." He kissed my temple softly, not with desperation this time, but with certainty. "I don't regret it. Any of it." Me neither. And in that moment, as the sun broke over the horizon, painting the world gold, I realized something. This wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning. Because love, the kind that survives the fire, doesn't fade. It endures, even when the world says it shouldn't. Especially then. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.